Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana.
With your host, Lee Barton, and co-host, Florence Myers.
I want to welcome you to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show, where we bring awareness to our community, education, and information as we try to build the pathway to encouragement in many people's lives. So we want you to take the time today and enjoy our show as you have done previously. And we want you to enjoy our guest. And once again, I am your host, Lee Martin, and your co-host is Florence Myers McSwine. Florence, take it away.
All right, good morning. Good morning. Well, today we have a very interesting guest. The name is Dr. J.W. Smith. Dr. Smith is an accomplished individual with multi-talents. And Lee, tell the audience a little bit more about Dr. Smith.
Well, once again, he is an accomplished blind Black man, and we are so blessed to have him on the show. And he's a professor of speech communication at Ohio University at Athens, Ohio. He's an author, poet, music therapist, former president of the state of Ohio for the National Federation of the Blind, first blind Black man to serve on the opportunity for Ohio with Disabilities Council, OOD. He's the first Black man to serve on the opportunity for Ohioans with Disabilities Council. And that's what's tough to say because I'm not used to saying Ohioans. So there's so much more to this man, and we're going to learn so much about Dr. J.W. Smith as we take the time to talk about the reason for this season with the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. And we're going to bring you some short information today, and we want you to pay attention to the commercials that we always project and get the numbers that you need to contact us. And Florence, please share a little bit about the National Federation of the Blind program, NFB Newsline.
I certainly will. For those who aren't aware, NFB Newsline is a free audio information service for the blind, visually impaired, and print challenged community. It gives us access to numerous newspapers, magazines, sales circulars, just a plethora of information right at our fingertips, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It gives us access in various ways, such as the A-Lady, which I like to call her, the iPhone, Android phone, landline phone, digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library, the Victor Reader Stream, as well as your computer.
So some of the related publications for today's show are the AARP magazine, Chronicle of Higher Education, Ebony magazine, GQ, Journal of Blindness and Innovation and Research, Poets and Writers, Rolling Stone, Sporting News, Root, Toastmasters, numerous Ohio publications for our guest, and we have so many other publications on the NFB Newsline service, as many of you do know, and we would want you to visit our website or give us a call as it scrolls across the screen, and as it also in our commercials let you know how to contact us. So we're going to take a short pause, and we're going to come back with our guest, none other than Dr. J.W. Smith. Stay tuned.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Little ghetto boy.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana. And we're speaking to our guest today, Dr. J.W. Smith. And Dr. Smith, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
Well, we appreciate your being here with us. A quick question about literacy in education. We know that you, as I mentioned, you're a jack of all trades, and how important do you feel literacy in education is to the blind community?
Oh, absolutely invaluable. Every time I read something in Braille, magazine or whatever, I find a spelling that I thought I knew how to spell, but had never seen it, or a name. And I'm like, wow, if I had just listened to this, I would have never known how to spell it. So I think that's a good reason for us to keep pushing literacy in the blind community. I'm not downing audio things or text or digital, whatever. But as an old guy who learned Braille when I was 4 or 5 years old, I couldn't imagine accomplishing half what I've done in my life without it.
And speaking of your lifetime, tell us just a little bit about you, Dr. Smith.
Oh my God, where do you want me to start? Born in Chicago, Illinois, raised by my grandparents. When I was born, I could only see out of one eye due to glaucoma, infantile glaucoma, which I found out was much more prevalent in my family and the Black community than I'd ever known. Then I was 3 years old. I lost the use of my good eye through a tragic accident. But I was raised in Chicago, mainstream schools, moved to Gary, Indiana, spent 15 years of my life there, and then decided at the age of 20, after 4 major changes in college, that I wanted to be a professor of communication. They used to call it speech communication then. And I knew that would require a PhD. So I set forth on an 11-year journey from 1977 to 1988 to get that PhD. And I've been a full-time professor since 1989. Wonderful family, wonderful daughters. They're women now. My daughter just called me today and said she got this great raise. And I was like, the money she's making now, I said, you know how long it took me to make that kind of money? Well, I'm so proud of her. And never thought I'd end up in Ohio, but here I am. So that's something about me. Love music. Been singing across the country since I was 12 or 13 years old. Used to play guitar and keyboards. Now I just play keyboards, and have written some stuff and performed a lot. Love music, love singing. I often think about whatever happened. The Blind Boys from Alabama tried to sign me up in 1982 when I was a 23-year-old kid in Gary, Indiana. I mean, the man had the contract. He wanted me to go with him that night. And I'm thinking about what my life would have been like if I'd gone on the road with him that night. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know with the Blind Boys of Alabama with Ricky McKinney, And I tell you, I really enjoyed them, and they would have benefited from your talents. As I tell you, I have listened to your music over the past few days, and I can't put it down. So tell us a little bit.
Well, they're still trying to get to me, and I'm like, but they want me to travel full time in Asia and Europe. I'm like, man, I'm too old for that now. I said, I'll come in the studio and help, but they don't want part time. They want full time, man. I can't do it.
Well, you know, we talked about poets and writers, and well, Florence is also a writer.
Yes.
And you have a new publication out. Do you want to tell us about your new release?
Yeah, I thought when I got to my 30th year as a professor, it was time to take a look back at what it's been like to be a blind and Black professor for 30 years. And so I wrote that book, actually sitting on a bus. I came up with the title, From the Back of the Bus to the Front of the Classroom, you know, my 30-year journey. And it was therapeutic in many ways, sometimes cathartic, to think about some of the issues I've had to deal with because of my skin color and my lack of physical sight. But it's out there, Amazon.com, and I got to record it as well. It was weird sitting in the studio reading my own book out loud, but it's at audible.com. You can download it. I think it's the best thing I've written up to this point.
So I just want to know another thing about you there. You know, you're such an inspiration, and
thank you.
You deal with a lot of our younger youth now in your classrooms there at Ohio University.
Yes.
Tell me, what are you seeing in our youth of today?
You know, it's a good question, Lee. Now, here's the deal. If you had asked me this question 2 years ago, I would have had a different answer. But going through this pandemic, I mean, that is a once in a lifetime experience. But what it has shown me with these young people is their resilience, their ability to adapt. If nothing else, this pandemic has weeded out things. And I'm just so proud of them. And so I try to do my small part to keep them inspired and keep them on the straight and narrow.
Okay, and now you are currently, you're still a professor, and you just mentioned the type of students actually that encourage you, that inspire you.
Yes.
Now, what do you feel is essential for the students of today to be successful in whatever, in whatever field they choose?
I think I see what you're saying. The ones that succeed are the ones that possess two qualities, in my opinion, and that is consistent attention to detail. This generation is easily distracted. Attention span small. If it's not on TikTok, they're pretty much out. But the ones that are consistently tuned in and stay on top of things are the ones that succeed. And then the second one is the ones who are teachable. Not everybody's teachable. And unfortunately, we were like that. Some of these kids think they already, they're 20 years old, 21, 19. They think they know it all.
Yes,
so it's like, okay, what are you doing here if in my class, if you already got all the answers? So the ones that I see who are successful are the ones who are willing to listen. And I'm not just saying just accept everything I say or somebody say, but listen to it, roll it over in their mind, think about it, give some feedback, and use that information in a synthesized way. Those are the ones I see who succeed.
I guess what I'm hearing you say that are openly teachable. Teachable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And while we're talking about that bit of education, the National Federation of the Blind has a scholarship that's coming up at our national convention in July, from the 5th to the 10th of July. It would be in New Orleans this year. And you need to go to NFB.org to apply for the scholarship. Time is running out. You need to have all your information in by March the 30th. So go to nfb.org and National Convention or /scholarship and find the application and the necessary information. And anyone that's totally blind can apply for the National Scholarship with the National Federation of the Blind at our National Convention. Once again, that's going to be July 5th through the 10th in the great state of Louisiana, New Orleans. So we're going to take a short pause and we're going to be right back with our guest, Dr. J.W. Smith. Stay tuned.
With my failing eyesight, I'm not able to read regular newspapers, and I'm not able to keep up with obituaries.
I've been a homemaker all of my life, but since my vision has failed, I wish I could read my favorite magazines.
Have you heard of the NFB Newsline?
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana, and we're speaking with Dr. J.W. Smith. And Dr. Smith, I realize that you're an author, you're a professor, you're a writer. If you would, give us your thoughts on whether there is a distinction between those.
That's a very good question. They're all a part of one. Like if you're a professor, even if you're at a strictly teaching college, you're expected to write. But I'm at a research one, so I've had to publish. So you got to teach, you got to publish, you have to write. I've become a better writer because of being a professor. Now, you made a good point in one of our breaks. When you write a book, it's different than an article. But the way I approach it is, I approach each writing assignment as like a smaller book, right? So I start with the title. I have to have the title first. Then I get the broad outline strokes, and then I set about to writing it. And then it's the editing. See, I think editing is the best part of writing. You put it down, and you go back over it, put it down for a few days, come back to it. If you have that luxury, we don't always have that. And I'm so impatient sometimes, I don't always take that. So I view little articles and when I do poetry or songs, when I transfer that over to books, I'm just thinking, okay, this is a longer song, it's a longer poem, it's a longer article. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, and so, but the common denominator is the same: the passion, the effort, the skills, the commitment to finishing it.
Well, you know, Dr. J.W. Smith, I tell you, once again, you're a man of so many talents. As we talked about your writing and poetry. Now we're going to talk a little bit about your music here. And when did you realize that you had the talent or otherwise the stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like the stuff, man. I mean, there's singing, then there's singing. And when did I really realize I could sing? 13 years old. Yeah, 1972, Cincinnati, Ohio. My brother and I were in this sort of talent show thing, and We were these young guys, they had the Jackson 5. We thought we were the Smith 2. We walked out there with our afros and we blew them away. And I'm like, hey, there might be something here. And that's when I really knew that there was something there.
Well, so how many albums and CDs have you produced?
Oh boy, I think 7. I think it's 7 CDs now. Yeah, it's either 7 or 8. Couple of them on Spotify, some on Amazon, some not, because you can't really put a lot of cover stuff out. You have to have your own original stuff. So everything on Spotify is original stuff. But I got a news flash for this group, and I'm rolling it out. I'm going to finally roll out my own website this summer. It's been long overdue. I'm gonna put everything up there. People can follow me and contact me and get the music and get the books. So I'm gonna roll that out this summer.
Dr. Smith.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
What would be your most memorable event as far as your singing career?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Good question.
Good. Can I pick 2?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
One of them was opening for Shirley Caesar in Detroit. That was amazing. And I'd say the second one was working with Fred Hammond in the studio. He is such a genius. And when I worked with him in Detroit 30 years ago, I mean, he was a genius then, and now he's gone on to be a megastar. But working with him in the studio, and when he put together my song One Day that I had written in 1979, which is just a classic for me. And even when I hear my own song One Day, you can hear Fred all over that. So those are 2 that stand out to me.
Wow. So real quick, we're going to ask you some rapid questions and answers on several songs. Okay. The first one is America, explicit.
First time I heard Ray Charles do it, I said, I got to do it. And I think I do it better than him sometime. He just made more money at it.
I really enjoy that rendition too. What about It's So Hard to Say Goodbye?
Man, I saw that movie and that song at the end of that, and that song haunted me for years. And I forget one day I was somewhere and I started singing it, and I have never taken it out of my repertoire. You all know Ron Brown. He loved that song. I think he could have me sing it all day. And it's why do the sad songs have to be such the good ones? That's a tearjerker there, buddy.
Yes, it is. And I like the Running Man.
So I wrote that about my friend who has CP. He has titanium crutches, and he runs 5 miles a day. And I'm like, man, I got to write a song about you. And I sat down one day and said, I'm going to write this song about this guy named Court Snyder.
Court Snyder. Man,
what about a high drama mama?
That's good. I was playing around in the studio one day with some of the fellows, and one of the guys wrote this song. He's like, what can we do with these words? We were playing around, and we started recording it. And he said, let's bring this woman in who's amazing down here. Let her sing a part and let me talk to her. And that's how that song developed. I mean, it's spur of the moment.
Okay, I Feel Good.
Oh, well, yeah, James Brown. Just a nice eye opener. You gotta. Who doesn't want to do James Brown, right? So it was a no-brainer for me.
Well, I tell you, we've come to the conclusion of this segment, and we're going to take a pause before we come back to the show for the conclusion. And I just want to say to you, I have really enjoyed this.
Me too.
And I'm sure that our listening and viewing audience as well. And we're going to leave you with a poem from Dr. J.W. Smith. And that is a poem that really touches the hearts and souls of many citizens that are blind and those that are coping with sight loss. So we'll be right back with the conclusion of our show.
Many people have asked me what it's like to be blind, not to be able to see physically. And it's very difficult to explain. It's as difficult as it is for me to try to comprehend what the sighted world is like, because I don't remember what it was like to be able to see when I was a small child. This particular poem, though, I think really sums it up the best. And I can't see it any better than this. Painted on my mind. I may not see the trees, but I can sure hear the leaves. I may not see the ocean, but I can feel the breeze. I may not see you smile, but I can feel your glow. I may not see a child, but I can hear them grow. I may not see a hillside or a rainbow I can't find, but I'm not missing out on rainbows because they're painted on my mind. I may not be able to see a garden, but I can sure smell the flowers. I can't see a timepiece, but I can count the hours. I can't see a house, but I can sure feel a home. I can't even see you standing or sitting there, but I know when I'm not alone. I can see joy, I can see love, and I can see happiness and blessings from above. So I may not be able to see a hillside or a rainbow I may never be able to find. But believe me, my friends, I'm not missing out on rainbows because they're painted on my mind.
Florence, that was such a great rendition, I tell you. JW, thank you so very much for sharing with us, and we look forward to future collaborations. Thank you so much for the poem.
And JW, thank you so much for being our guest today. And our viewing and listening audience, thank you for being with us. We look forward to hearing and seeing you next week on the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.